Hello everyone, this is Scramble from Emotionless Crypto Trading. Today we're going to discuss about the market and decide what we have to do when we get days like this. Right, so I'm coming out with this video presentation in order to help everyone out there in the way they would have to see the current market reactions and what kind of lessons can we get out of such a thing. I believe the purpose of whatever we do in life, or should I say one of the purposes, should be called by getting a lesson out of whatever we do in life. Right? So what I mean by that is taking out a positive lesson from whatever action we're doing, or whatever action is being done against us. Because the current market environment is of course against, as long as you're holding positions for long. If you're holding positions for short, that's a different story. Today we're not going to talk about those which are holding a position for short. Today we're going to talk about those going long, going bullish on the space, and we're going to be in the perspective of the trader which is losing money these days, especially with the long-term holdings. But also I'd like to talk about something that is beyond the fact that losing the money, and it's pretty much attacking your mentality. And those are these kind of days which are going beyond the fact that the money is getting lost out of your account and is more likely to attack your mentality, the structure of your mentality that is supposed to keep your business alive. Right? So let's just talk about things step by step. What's happening right now today is pretty much clear. Everyone can see that on coinmarketcap.com. It is presented very clearly. It can also seen on the charts basically. Look at that. We've got huge crashes going down. This is Ethereum. We've got BTC crashing very aggressively out of the blue, out of the middle of nowhere, finding a very powerful force of selling pressure that is applied against the markets while bulls are disappearing suddenly. You know that order book, which is looking amazing for the bulls. On the green side, you know how that looks like, right? If you do trade actively, you know there are some times when the bullish order book looks beautiful and then everything disappears suddenly. From a second to the other, all the buying orders are disappearing suddenly, and the space is finding the selling pressure to be played out very efficiently, and that is fair. Why? Because there is nothing on the buying order side, of course. Great. So let's just get back to our things here and talk about the 24 hours volume, which is picking up $10 billion than what it used to be usually. We've got a BTC dominance which is staying around the same levels, considering that we had alts decreasing more than the BTC these days. One of the most important things is that BTC established a new low for 2018, which is not something that we would expected in December. A lot of the people at that time thought that 2018 is going to be the best year out of the space. The best year. 2017 would have been pulling us up to $800 billion market cap, but 2018 is going to be at least a $3 billion market cap. Something that we're not really having the ability to figure out anywhere. It's pretty much invisible, right? So that's why the real market cap is around $150 billion. And we're talking about statistics from coinmarketcap.com. Of course, there are some other total market caps theories as well. Bitcoin minus 15% is not an average movement. It's not something that we would call as usual within a pattern movement from the Bitcoin. This is out of the story. This is out of what people used to expect, between 5 to 7% decrease on a bearish day. Even during a bearish, should I say, environment, we used to have multiple days of 5 to 7% decrease. Today, it's 15% we could consider that triple than what we have as an average when we have a bearish day. Now that is telling us one fact, that there's still a bearish pressure which is dominating the order book. And the price that we have right now for the BTC isn't the bottom. That's why we had a huge amount of money on the order book of selling. At 5,000, at 6,000, there was huge amount of money that triggered this movement, and it started the snowball effect down the way. What happened is a lot of the people that were holding, and they thought back in December 2018 were going back to at least $10,000. There were theories and stories around that. Of course, nothing backed up by data. It's just that you have a desire and you are creating a story around your desire in order to confirm it for the people, which is a wrong action. That's not the way we read the technical details, by creating stories around our desires. If we want $25,000 around Bitcoin, it doesn't mean we have to create a story and create charts to present that, because it's not going to happen. Whatever we try to present that way by creating a story is not going to be reflected on the market, a probability on 99.9%. So therefore, at $5,000, at $6,000, bears were taking control of the space by triggering a snowball movement, which is ultimately picking up the little fishes that are driving down the market. And they are creating sort of a spirit of a bearish crisis. That's what these guys have created. I'll tell you what the audience is usually doing when they see movements like this. So there's the first day when the space is starting to crash, the volume is picking up, and the buying orders are disappearing from the buying order book. That's one thing. At that time, the small fishes are not reacting. And one of the case scenarios is they do believe the market is just facing a slight selling energy, but that is not something sustainable. That's what they believe at first. And the reason for that is, of course, they're stubborn on the fact that they would like the market to come back at the level they purchased, and of course, they would like to cover their losses. That's the story, the mentality behind such a thing. If we look on the charts, we would have the ability to see that. We've got this uptrending channel support line, this green one, going just like that. And what happens is we have the market that is breaking below the line. Do you know what happens with people? At first thing, they don't use technical analysis, and that's the majority of people doing trading here. They do the trading based on the news and the media and then what Telegram groups are saying, what YouTubers are saying, what one thing or the other is talking about, the space they do the trading on that way, considering that the technical analysis are nonsense. Right? So they don't listen to this. That's the first case. And the second case are the ones that are doing the technical analysis wrong. The third case is the ones that are doing the technical analysis correctly, but they don't listen to it. And there's plenty of people doing that. Right? They're doing it, they're saying it, they don't listening to it. At the end, that's the conclusion. You know, they're just doing it correctly, but the fact is that they're not listening, which is one more step that needs to be completed. And there's a people doing that kind of thing called procrastination, when it is about to listen to your work that you have done. Trust in your work in front of the others. You got to do that, right? So, and then there's people reacting, of course, on the space and on the technical analysis, and they sold here, right? You sold here like 6,300. If you were doing technical analysis, you sold here if you were going long, because the breakout was huge, was a breakout which has been established basically after a pretty long period. Let me just measure this from here to this. We've got 92 days on a specific trend. It is oriented upwards. 92 days and 19 hours. upwards slightly, but then the breakout is happening. After 3 months of a structure, if there's a breakout, you gotta sell, you gotta react. If you don't react, consequences could be disastrous. If you use technical analysis, if you know how this trading works, you will react because you have no other choice. That's one thing, right? So market flies down, and there's a lot of the people during this stage right here, especially during this little one, saying that and hoping it's gonna get back. Right? They're living with the hope that the market is coming back. In the next hours, attention, not in the next months. That's not what they're aiming to. They're aiming for the next hours, for the next days, and they will be like, well, this is just, you know, a little movement, whatever is out there that is just, you know, trying to force me to sell, but I'm not selling, I'm stubborn, I'm holding. I'm not doing it. Right? So we've got this mentality that has an end. And the ending point is depending from a person to the other, but is focused on the same structure of the mentality. That is the collapse of your discipline level. You've got a discipline of your holding and you're aiming on that, right? That is your main source of your holdings. Discipline, that's why you're holding, because you're disciplined for the bullish and you're not giving up against the market. Which is, of course, at the first stage, it's a wrong action because you should sell and buy back later. You got plenty of possibilities of doing that. Sell and buy back later. So holding against the market is bad. Holding with the market is correct. So at first stage, you're against the market. You should sell. And then what happens next is, of course, the market is going in a range, which is called holding with the market. It's that when it's oversold, it's bottoming, and you start selling because you're going into a mentality discipline crisis. That is the fact with Bitcoin Cash 40%. Look at that. The well-loved Bitcoin Cash suffering at 40% in 24 hours is ridiculous. 15% for the BTC, but what about Ethereum? Look at that. Pennies on the dollar for one Ethereum today, 135 bucks. Pennies on the dollar. More than 10x decrease on the price, which is huge. Great. So Bitcoin Cash 40%, BTC 15, this guy 15. Look at the change here. 44 Metaverse. What a huge hit that was. Look at that. Let's just make a quick example here. Metaverse ETP. Look at the ETP. What a movement from $3 down to $120. That's insane. And that is the fact that people reach in a crisis of their discipline, and they're no longer able to see how their portfolio is decreasing against their understandings. Right? So if it's against your understandings, then you're not going to be able to digest the crash. If you want to be part of the crash in a negative way, then you should not look at the space when these days are happening. Or you should consider them pretty much short-term reactions that you don't want to pay attention because you don't care of short-term. You want to care of long-term, so you don't give any sort of high value on this kind of movements because they're short-term. You always care about long-term. That way you can survive. But I'm assuming there's not many people even thinking they would just set themselves up from the beginning when they invest. They walk down to the ATM or they buy cryptos on Coinbase or whatever website. The first thing they're saying, the majority of people, is I'm buying for long term. I'll do it for long term. And I don't care if there's a crash here or there. But do you think that's going to happen when the market is finding 40% crash in a day, 30% in the other, 15% in the third one, and keep going like that? Just look at that. Just look at that. And then do you know what happens? The media comes out and says Bitcoin might go to zero because there's one guru out there saying that Bitcoin might go to zero. No other detail, no other fact, no other argument. Just because one guy said it. It's like one guy comes out and says Bitcoin might be $1 million, and then everyone talks about it. I don't give an importance to these people. I don't like to give that any sort of importance to a nonsense argument, right? So we believe that we should focus ourselves this way. We don't give high importance to whatever comes out on the media. We're going to give it importance. No, we don't have to do that. And that's why they're pushing this type of content, because people enjoy it. People enjoy it. They like it. They think it's nice, awesome to see how the market reacts when we react to news. But that is, of course, a negative habit, right? So we're trying to wrap this video up, and we're trying to put things pretty clearly here in the video by saying that we have two choices. We react at the beginning of a movement, and we react for it, or we don't react at all and we wait it out. We wait for the market to come back. This is the second choice. The reason why we have this huge selling pressure here coming in is, of course, at the beginning of it we had a bunch of the whales selling out, but then the snowball effect picks up, and people that were intended to hold long term, the ones that purchase online, offline, wherever they purchase with the fact and with the main idea of going long term, they sold it. They sold it when Bitcoin was 15% minus. It's the time they sold it. They sold Bitcoin Cash at 25, 30, 40%. Ethereum 15%. They sold it at that time because the pressure on the mentality that is applied on them is something they're not able to handle. They're not prepared for that. That's why in order to be a trader, you have to specifically prepare your mentality if you want to be a successful one, because you can be even one of those traders that are losing money continuously, and that might happen for years. Attention, you can lose money for years here. There's nothing that's going to stop the fact that you might not lose money if you're not changing, and that's the only thing that's going to stop this thing. You yourself, the change that you got to make if you're one of those guys losing money, right? So trying to make your video that stands out and lays down an information which is helpful for a bunch of the people here, specifically around the mentality. Great, that's pretty much all about. That's kind of all the things that we got to talk about during a crash like this, is focus on the human mentality other than whatever important data that is represented on the news and the media size, which is something less important than our mentality. Great, so what we're going to do today is we're going to do something else. We're going to focus our energy on a different industry. We're going to focus our energy on different activities that we might do. Whenever the market is crashing like this, if you don't want to participate in the shorting side, because you might expect a bottom very soon, and the shorting at this range is already very, very risky. Depends from a person to the other, because even the risk acceptance level depends from a person to the other. Then I'm suggesting you to do other activities with your life instead of looking here at the charts and seeing how everything is crashing, because that way the negative pressure is building up on your psychology, on your mentality, and that's not going to help you at all, not even with your personal life and not even with whatever that stands out. The reason I'm having this voice here is because I have a minor medical problem. No problem with that at all overall. Hopefully I've made it pretty much understandable, even with the fact that my voice is pretty difficult today. Great. So this is where we are. This is what we got to consider. That is the lesson behind today's movement. Like I said, we're trying to get a lesson for whatever story that is out there, and from whatever journey we're going with, whatever action we're finding, there is a story behind it. And that's all basically for the entire space that we're having today. We're going to talk about other things in the next videos as well. You see, Ripple is second, and it succeed having a $4.2 billion market cap, higher than Ethereum. Do you know what is discussing around the media today? That Ripple might be the first cryptocurrency in the world from the market cap, and it might overthrow Bitcoin. From 18 billion to 78, there's a difference of $60 billion. That's not a joke. For Ripple, in order to pick up $60 billion, and for Bitcoin nothing, that is a utopia. We have to be very, very careful on that. And you see, this is what the media is focusing on, telling us the Ripple might go first, and it's spreading this message everywhere a lot of times a day. It's spreading the message through YouTubers, Twitters, bloggers, vloggers, whatever is out there that is influencing the space is just doing it that way. Instead of talking about something from we could gain, right? Something that is presenting a beneficial future for us, like a lesson from which we could gain knowledge. Right? So the media is not doing that at all. The media is just pretending to inform people. Unfortunately, most of the time it's doing the opposite. Right? So talk to you soon, guys. That's pretty much all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to subscribe on my YouTube channel. Hit that bell button next to it once you've done it. Like, share your opinions in the comments area. Hopefully this video is not too long, and hopefully it's understandable. You know what? Talk to you soon.